Hello. Today General Hospital will reveal the world stands shaken by a relentless wave of natural disasters, and among the hardest hit is Japan, a nation long accustomed to the fury of the earth, yet now pushed to its limits by a series of cataclysmic earthquakes and towering tsunamis the likes of which have not been seen in decades. As international headlines fill with footage of collapsing buildings, submerged towns, and widespread panic, another shocking revelation emerges. This time from the heart of Hollywood. Beloved General Hospital actress Nancy Lee Grahn, revered for her decades-long portrayal of the sharp-witted and resilient Alexis Davis, has reportedly gone missing in Japan along with her daughter, musician Kate Grahn, after the Kansai region was devastated by a powerful tsunami. The news, both surreal and terrifying, swept through the entertainment industry and the fan base of the long-running soap opera like wildfire, leaving many stunned and fearful. Just days before this crisis unfolded, Nancy had been actively posting serene snapshots of her mother-daughter getaway in Japan on social media. Her Instagram featured scenes of peaceful walks along coastal paths, glimpses of cultural temples near Kyoto, and quiet moments between mother and daughter, framed by the lush greenery of a countryside resort. However, layered beneath the beauty of their vacation was a growing sense of anxiety. In one of her last posts, Nancy expressed concern about the seismic tremors that had begun to rattle the region and admitted that their return flight had been cancelled due to increased geological instability. She noted that they had decided to remain in a mountain resort outside Kyoto, a place that had, until that point, been deemed safe from seismic activity. That assumption, tragically, was shattered when a magnitude 8.9 earthquake struck off the southern coast of Honshu, triggering tsunami alerts across much of Japan's coastline, including the very area where Nancy and Kate had taken shelter. Since the tsunami struck, all communication from the actress and her daughter has gone silent. No further updates have been posted, no texts answered, no calls returned. Their phones last pinged off a rural cell tower minutes before the first waves made landfall. Nancy's family in the United States acted swiftly, contacting the American Embassy in Tokyo, and initiating an international search with cooperation from both Japanese authorities and private rescue teams. Officials are now working to triangulate the final known coordinates of their devices, while search parties comb through debris-laden coastal roads and isolated mountain towns. The areas being searched are vast, and access is limited by damaged infrastructure, fallen bridges, and landslides. Yet the mission continues, driven by the hope that somewhere, Nancy and Kate are still alive, perhaps trapped, but holding on. Social media, too, has become a battleground of emotion. Hashtags like #PrayForNancyandKate and #BringThemHome dominate timelines, particularly among the soap opera fan community and fellow actors, many of whom have worked alongside Nancy for years and regard her as both mentor and friend. Messages of hope pour in by the thousands. From fans recalling how Alexis Davis inspired them during their own personal battles, to fellow celebrities publicly urging emergency services to prioritize the rescue of all foreign nationals stranded in high-risk zones. The entertainment world is on edge, not only because a respected artist is in peril, but because the very real possibility of loss feels unbearably close. Adding to the heartbreak is the memory of Nancy's recent trip to Hawaii, which just weeks ago also made headlines after tsunami alerts were issued in the Pacific following an earthquake near the Russian coastline. At the time, Nancy reassured her followers that she and Kate were safe, nestled high above the coastline in a home with panoramic views of the island. She even joked about the difficulty of taking a good photo of her daughter, whose shy demeanor in front of the camera often resulted in spontaneous but charming images. Fans delighted in the rawness of those moments, Nancy without makeup, Kate with tousled hair and arms crossed, both of them unfiltered and real. They were reminders that even celebrities crave simplicity, that at their core, they are parents and children like anyone else, vulnerable, human, and precious. What makes this current situation so devastating is that these two women, whose bond has been so lovingly displayed, may now be fighting for their lives in a foreign land torn apart by nature's wrath. Nancy has always worn her truth on her sleeve, whether discussing aging in Hollywood, her minor cosmetic procedures, or her pride in Kate's blossoming music career. Their relationship was not performative, not curated for likes, but built on mutual respect, love, and shared experience. Nancy often spoke of how traveling with Kate allowed them to leave behind the chaos of Los Angeles and find peace in unfamiliar places. That this pursuit of peace may have led them into danger is a bitter irony. Reports from Japan continue to pour in, with emergency responders warning that rescue efforts may take days or even weeks due to ongoing aftershocks and the unstable terrain. Some speculate that Nancy and Kate may be among the numerous people trapped in mountainous inns that have lost electricity and communications entirely. Others fear they may have tried to evacuate too late, caught in the massive traffic gridlocks that plagued the roads just before the tsunami's landfall. A few amateur drone operators believe they have spotted movement in a forested ridge near the last known location of their resort, sparking renewed urgency in the search. Meanwhile, volunteers from both local communities and international NGOs are distributing food, medical aid, and supplies to remote areas in hopes of reaching anyone still waiting for rescue. For the fanbase of General Hospital, this is more than a developing news story, it is a personal loss unfolding in real time. Nancy Lee Grahn's portrayal of Alexis Davis has, for many, been a source of strength, especially for viewers who related to her character's complicated history, fierce intelligence, and emotional resilience. Off-screen, Nancy is admired for those very same traits. Her honesty about her imperfections, her vocal advocacy for women's rights and mental health, and her deep love for her daughter have made her a role model beyond the screen. That she may now be suffering in silence, perhaps injured or without access to help, is an unbearable thought for those who have admired her strength for decades. And yet, within this darkness, there remains a glimmer of hope. Rescue teams are working around the clock, and officials remain optimistic that many of the unaccounted-for individuals will be located as communications improve and access is restored. Satellite phones have begun reaching remote villages. Helicopter patrols have increased. Candlelight vigils are being held in Los Angeles, New York, and even outside studios where General Hospital is filmed. A fan in Tokyo reportedly left a note at the U.S. Embassy addressed simply, "We love you, Nancy. Keep fighting." Until there is word, any word, those who have followed Nancy's journey, on screen and off, will continue to wait. With every hour that passes, the urgency intensifies, but so does the resolve of those determined to see mother and daughter reunited and safe. In a world battered by chaos and uncertainty, perhaps the most powerful thing left is the collective hope that love, courage, and resilience can prevail even against the most unthinkable odds. In the not-so-distant past, when Nancy Lee Grahn was vacationing in Hawaii, she shared a moment of vulnerability that stirred concern among her fans. A tsunami warning had been issued following a powerful offshore earthquake, and Nancy, ever transparent and grounded, took to Instagram to update her followers. Though visibly shaken, she managed to reassure everyone that she and her daughter, Kate, were safe, tucked away on a high hill in Kauai, far from the potential danger zone. Her posts at the time struck a balance between caution and humor, even lightheartedly joking about Kate's aversion to having her picture taken and the ongoing battle to capture a photograph that met her daughter's notoriously high standards. There was a sense of warmth and normalcy, a familial intimacy that made her fans feel like they were part of something deeply personal. It was a portrait of resilience and connection, even in the shadow of looming natural threats. But now, everything has changed. There are no new photos, no witty captions, no warm reassurances. Nancy's social media channels have gone dark, her digital voice silenced. The stillness is deafening. Days have passed since the earthquake and resulting tsunami devastated the Kansai region of Japan, yet not a single update has emerged from either Nancy or Kate. The abrupt halt in communication has only deepened the dread, transforming worry into a chilling fear. According to reports from local Japanese sources, entire sections of Kansai, especially areas populated with coastal resorts and rural guesthouses, have become completely inaccessible due to collapsed bridges, landslides, and widespread destruction of telecommunications infrastructure. Even emergency responders have struggled to reach affected zones, as the labyrinth of narrow mountain roads has either crumbled or been buried beneath debris. Among the limited eyewitness accounts that have trickled out, several mention seeing American tourists at a hotel near Lake Biwa shortly before the area was evacuated under emergency orders. These reports have raised hopes that Nancy and Kate might have been among them, but without verifiable guest lists or any official records due to the chaos that followed, nothing can be confirmed. Many resorts in that region, especially boutique or family-run inns, did not have fully digitized registration systems, and the suddenness of the evacuation left many visitors without a chance to log their names or whereabouts. Furthermore, the widespread power outages and network disruptions have rendered GPS tracking and mobile phone triangulation efforts frustratingly ineffective. What was once a straightforward vacation now seems cloaked in mystery, fraught with logistical and emotional uncertainty. This situation has become more than just a missing persons case, it is a painful reminder of how fragile the illusion of safety can be. What seemed like a peaceful retreat, a moment of escape from the harsh rhythms of life, has unraveled into a harrowing ordeal. For fans of General Hospital, the emotional toll is even heavier. Nancy Lee Grahn is not just an actress to them. She is a living pillar of their daytime community. Her portrayal of Alexis Davis has for more than 20 years embodied intelligence, vulnerability, and unwavering strength. She has navigated storylines of addiction, motherhood, betrayal, and survival with a grace and realism that elevated the character beyond fiction. That the woman behind such a powerful role might now be in peril makes the situation feel agonizingly real. Within the entertainment industry, there has been a surge of solidarity and compassion. Colleagues, past and present, have spoken out, sharing fond memories, calling for international assistance, and spreading awareness across every platform available. Several of Nancy's closest friends have taken tangible action, organizing crowdfunding campaigns to raise money for the hiring of private rescue teams familiar with Japan's mountainous terrain and coastal geography. These efforts, in coordination with the U.S. Embassy and Japanese emergency services, aim to increase the odds of locating survivors in isolated areas where official resources have yet to penetrate. Some are even attempting to charter helicopters or dispatch satellite phones to areas where signals remain non-existent, clinging to the hope that perhaps Nancy and Kate are alive, just beyond reach, somewhere in the silence. In the absence of information, a wave of emotional intensity has swept across the fanbase. Forums, fan pages, and social groups dedicated to General Hospital are flooded with tributes, personal messages, and emotional recollections. Many fans have expressed how Alexis Davis was a beacon for them during dark times, how Nancy's voice, her expressions, and her strength gave them comfort and courage. For them, the thought of losing her feels personal, like the fading of a steady light they've always looked toward. It is more than grief, it is helplessness in the face of something too big to fight, too far to touch, and yet too close to ignore. The tragedy is deepened by the intimacy of Nancy and Kate's bond, something fans have long admired. Their relationship, so lovingly displayed through candid moments and shared adventures, was a reminder that even in a world obsessed with appearances, authenticity still thrives. Nancy never shied away from showing her natural self. Whether discussing her personal aging journey, cosmetic transparency, or her pride in her daughter's burgeoning career, she offered herself without pretense. And Kate, though more reserved, was equally adored. A talented musician with a shy smile and a fierce creative spirit. That both of them might now be enduring unimaginable hardship somewhere alone, perhaps injured or afraid, is almost too painful to consider. Yet in the midst of this fear, hope refuses to die. Every report from a new search zone, every ping of possible movement, every unconfirmed sighting reignites the collective will to believe. Rescue operations continue to expand, and with them grows the possibility that communication may be restored, that survivors may be found. Vigil candles flicker in windows thousands of miles away, held by people who may never have met Nancy or Kate, but who feel as though they know them intimately. It is a bond forged not by proximity but by shared emotion, by years of watching, listening, and connecting. This unfolding story serves as a brutal but profound reminder. The world is fragile, and safety is never guaranteed. But in that same fragility lies our greatest strength, the human capacity for care, for connection, and for hope. For now, the world waits. Not in passive silence, but in determined patience. Every post, every prayer, every dollar raised and every message sent out into the void carries the same unshakable plea. That Nancy Lee Grahn and her daughter Kate will come home, and that this silence, heavy and cruel, will one day be broken not by grief, but by the sound of their voices once more. Though the current situation remains without any formal confirmation of disappearance, the deafening silence surrounding the whereabouts of Nancy Lee Grahn and her daughter Kate has cast an ever-growing shadow of dread across their global community of admirers, family, colleagues, and friends. As the days stretch on with no new updates, no signals, and no verified sightings, a collective anxiety has begun to settle in, replacing initial concern with a heavier, more suffocating fear that something irreversible may have occurred in the chaos that followed the devastating tsunami and earthquake in Japan's Kansai region. The area, once considered a tranquil escape for tourists seeking cultural immersion and scenic beauty, has now been reduced to fractured landscapes, isolated villages, and infrastructure so broken that entire towns have been cut off from the outside world. Roads lie in ruins, communication towers stand twisted or destroyed, and power outages have plunged whole swaths of countryside into silent darkness. It is within that dark silence that the fate of Nancy and Kate hangs suspended. Still, even as that darkness grows, so too does a different kind of force, one far less tangible but no less powerful. Hope, quiet and stubborn, refuses to die. For every worst-case scenario that the mind dares to imagine, there exists a parallel vision, of survival, of strength, of endurance. That perhaps Nancy and Kate are not gone, but simply out of reach. Perhaps their phones ran out of power. Perhaps they found shelter in a remote mountain lodge with no signal, or perhaps they are among the unidentified survivors being cared for in overcrowded local clinics where chaos has slowed record-keeping to a crawl. Perhaps they are waiting, like everyone else, for roads to be cleared, for rescue teams to arrive, for that first lifeline to reach them. The world clings to this vision with trembling hands and breath held tightly in aching lungs. It is a hope anchored in more than optimism. It is rooted in who Nancy is. Those who know her, or even just know of her, understand that she is not the kind of person who gives up easily. On screen, as Alexis Davis, she has portrayed a woman who endured unthinkable losses, battled inner demons, fought for her children, and rose, again and again, from the ashes of trauma. Off-screen, Nancy has been no less a warrior. She has spoken openly about her personal experiences, her views on aging, her commitment to justice and equality, and most of all, her love for her daughter. Kate is not just the center of Nancy's world, she is its heartbeat. The bond between them, so consistently and lovingly shared in interviews and social media posts, has always been one of deep mutual admiration. Kate, a gifted musician and artist in her own right, has always been Nancy's pride and joy. That the two of them may now be enduring an unimaginable ordeal together is a thought too overwhelming to process, and yet also a source of comfort. Because if they are together, they are stronger. Local reports from Japan indicate that many resorts and guesthouses in the affected areas did not maintain fully digitized records, complicating efforts to track international travelers. Emergency teams have noted that many lodgings near Lake Biwa, an area briefly mentioned in early eyewitness accounts, were evacuated without proper manifests, as staff were forced to act swiftly amidst rising water levels and ground instability. Witnesses described seeing foreign guests being guided into vans and buses, some of which were rerouted to temporary shelters in rural community centers. These places are now overcrowded, with limited access to media, and in some cases, have no functioning communication systems at all. It is entirely plausible, some rescue officials say, that Nancy and Kate are among these displaced individuals, alive but effectively hidden within the logistical tangle of one of the most complicated post-disaster operations in modern Japanese history. Meanwhile, back in the United States, an enormous grassroots mobilization is underway. Fan groups across social media have turned into digital war rooms, coordinating message chains, distributing search maps, and sharing multilingual posts designed to circulate in Japan. Volunteers fluent in Japanese have offered to help translate emergency notices or reach out to local journalists for assistance. Some fans have even begun petitioning U.S. representatives and embassy officials to prioritize efforts to locate American citizens missing in the region, placing pressure on both national and international agencies to broaden their response. The entertainment community has rallied too. Colleagues from General Hospital and other daytime dramas have paused their own promotional activities to instead amplify the call for awareness. Messages of hope and support have poured in from actors, writers, producers, and even competing networks. Some have shared personal anecdotes of Nancy's generosity and mentorship, painting a picture of a woman who has long served as a quiet anchor behind the scenes, wise, fiercely loyal, and always the first to lift others up.